Hey everyone, it's Luke here from Astro Awakening. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a update on the Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse. It's happening today, which is the 16th of May here in Australia. It's the 15th for the rest of the world. A lot of intensity, but I feel like the intensity is actually a release of intensity. It's like this building of energy, and there has to come a point where something's got to give, something's got to be let go, something's got to change. And this full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio is just that energetic sort of alignment that we really will see a shift and a change. A lot of emotional energy, especially to do with our past, coming and especially to do with the things that we have kept below the surface. A lot of fixed situations that are starting to shift or to break. In other words, where you're feeling a bit stuck, something's got to change. So, with the fixed axis, which is where Saturn and the eclipse is happening, Saturn's in Aquarius, fixed air. The sun's in Taurus, fixed earth. The moon's going to be in Scorpio, which it is now, Scorpio, fixed water, which leaves Leo, fixed fire, the only sign not represented in that fixed axis. So a lot of this energy, as it comes from the past, from the unconscious, from the shadow, from the dark, from the depths, from the Scorpio realm, up into the physical reality, into our body, into our physical earth, it's really going to release into where? Into the heart. And it is a sort of a test at the moment of how much are you in your heart space. And how much do you need to be in your heart space? In fact, as a guiding sort of pillar through this transitional period, and this is definitely a bit of a crescendo, a real peak point for 2022, this eclipse. But a guiding sort of, or a guide stone through this period is like, how much and how often are you residing in your heart? Can you have love and forgiveness for those that have hurt you? That's the big measure of humanity, right? It's not to avoid negative things or to, avoid hurt and pain. It's natural here. And in fact, pain and those types of things are, part of growth. They call it growing pains. So we do go through pains, but they're necessary to create the right conditions that inspire and cause a catalyst for growth and change. So if nothing changes, we stay stagnation, and stagnation is annihilation, right? It's death. So a lot of people finding themselves in situations, fixed situations at the moment where, the shift's coming and it's like, boom, how much are you in your heart? And sometimes being in your heart requires letting go. Surrender. That's often, they don't say surrender into your thoughts or surrender into your mind. Where do they say surrender to? Surrender into your heart and reside there. Just how much we're in our heart, how much we can be in our heart, and what's preventing us from being in our heart. Well, that's a lot of what's coming up at the moment, is the things that are holding us back or stopping us from being able to be in that heart. If we surrender into the heart, we can be in a place of unconditional love, being in a state of being an embodiment, fixed Taurus, fixed earth, right? An embodiment of unconditional love, right? We so often are giving love to receive, or we're giving that which we sort of describe as loving, right? We're so loving and caring and giving and selfless and compassionate and empathetic. But ultimately, we're doing that to receive, because we don't have the embodiment of that unconditional love. We think we need love, right? And we look for it outside of ourselves, and that's where we're mistaken, because then we're doing things and we become dependent on either doing those things or things with outside of self to obtain the state of unconditional love, when the paradox is you are love. You just have to learn how to be it. How do you be love? Well, you surrender into your heart. And that's the place where you find unconditional love. So we're going to break down the eclipse energy. First, we'll bring up the chart on the computer so you guys can see it at home. And then I'm going to do some stuff on the whiteboard, and we're just going to talk through all the different energies. It's pretty complex. There's a lot going on. In fact, all the major generational transformational planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are all configured strongly to this eclipse and this eclipse axis, as well as Saturn. Saturn's actually really prominently placed with this eclipse at the bending between the nodes, right? Which is this sort of point or halfway point between the lunar nodes. And one of the things in this chart you can see straight away, and I'll just move it forward in time to the actual timing of the eclipse, right? With this is the sort of pretty geometric patterns that we have in the middle. So, you know, there it is roughly around there slightly. So it'll be this afternoon. So if you're in a location today at 2:26 Australian time around the world where you can see the moon, obviously you may see the eclipse. But here in Australia, we'll have a full moon rise tonight, shortly after the eclipse, a few hours after the eclipse, but the eclipse will have been over by then. Now, you can see this strong geometric patterns in here. We've got this red sort of triangle, as well as this blue shaped one here. I think, what do they call that? A scalene, an isosceles, and equilateral. So none of them are equilateral because they need equal sides. Scalene, I don't know. Were they right angles? So it's isosceles. Is that it? Fuck, I can't remember my maths and my geometry from school. But you had scalene, isosceles, and there's some homework for you. Put it in the comments. What triangles are these? Are they isosceles with a right angle triangle? But the point I'm going to make here is Saturn right here, fixed Aquarius, right? And then we've got the node and the sun at 25 degrees, Saturn at 24, almost 25 degrees, and the moon being eclipsed at 25 degrees in Scorpio. And you'll notice that creates that red sort of triangle there, which is known as the T-square. Okay, so you've got two planets in opposition with a third planet squaring both, right, which gives us this T-square. I like to look at this as this would be the string being pulled back, right? If we had a bow, like a bow and arrow, right, this would be the string, and we're pulling it back to this point here. And if we pull that, the tension, see, because these oppositions, the sun and the moon at a full moon, they're opposite each other. So the tension is between those two polar opposites. So imagine having something at opposites and then getting the middle and pulling it. Well, that's what Saturn does here. It sort of pulls it back, right? But with a full moon is a release of energy, right? The moon now has received the full light of the sun, and it can release from the subconscious, right? Which is what the moon represents. It can release that energy. So if tension is being pulled back in here to Saturn, then it's almost like the arrow is ready to fire. And where does it go? Phew, straight across 24, 25, 26 degrees Leo. So if you've got a planet around 24, 25, 26 degrees, especially 25 of Leo or any fixed sign, this eclipse is extremely potent for you. But as a collective energy, Leo rules the heart, right? The lion heart. So it is an opportunity to transcend, to release, to let go, to purge with Scorpio energy, the past, which is the south node, and fire us into our heart space. Some people, unable to let go or confronted with an overwhelm of deep emotional trauma from their past, may find that their heart actually can't cope with that release of energy. Now we know with the pandemic that's been going on for the last 2 years, and some of the key side effects of the inoculation, right? Mass inoculation. And this isn't conspiracy. This is factual from the data of the manufacturers of these particular snake poisons, and well known now, documented, and we're seeing in our reality side effects are heart attacks, clots, and strokes, aneurysms, that sort of thing. So I would expect that with a lot of this emotional energy, this deep trauma, this stuff from the past, unconscious, right? And I'll speak more of that in a minute with the whiteboard. But I would imagine that for some people also that have chosen that particular pathway, that this release of energy up into the heart space will be a trigger for perhaps sudden and massive heart failure, sad as it may be. But we are in an eclipse, right? And we're on a Scorpio eclipse, and we're on a South Node Scorpio eclipse. So the last time we had South Node Scorpio lunar eclipses was 2003, 2004. In fact, on the 16th of May, 2003, we had a South Node lunar eclipse in Scorpio at 24 degrees of Scorpio. So it's very similar. So you can sort of take yourself back to 2003. And we're not looking only at 2003, but we're also looking at everything that's happened between now and then, right? So as in things, difficulties, traumas, hurt, pain, suffering, you know, conflict, all that sort of stuff that's gone on, manipulation, gaslighting, abuse, right? Abuses that have gone on since then that have gone into the pit or the well or the underworld of our unconscious because we've just repressed it. We haven't processed it properly. We haven't moved through it. We haven't released it. We haven't forgiven. We haven't been able to let go. We're holding on to it. And sometimes we have this strong identification too with like, they did that to me. You said that, you did that, you know, so for those in that state where are unable to let go, they just can't, then this will be a very challenging period of time. But it's almost like with Saturn here squaring the nodes, that it's a karmic reckoning and it needs to take place. It's necessary. So yeah, without looking at, you know, too much on this, I want to get to the whiteboard and sort of break some things down. But yeah, you can sort of see there's a lot of tension on this axis, and the tensions from Saturn, Pluto up into a trine with the sun here, sextiling the South Node. You've got Mars and Neptune conjunct here, making a massive trine to the South Node and the Moon. And then you've got Uranus up here, conjunct the North Node in Taurus. Venus ruling the North Node of Taurus, conjunct Chiron. And we've got Mars ruling the South Node of Scorpio, as well as Pluto Retrograde ruling the South Node of Scorpio. Mars conjunct Neptune in Pisces. So let's jump onto the whiteboard and have a look at some things and yeah, have a deeper look at what's going on. But let's just look at the South Node. Okay, so what's happening in the sky at the moment? We've got Saturn up here in Aquarius. Okay, we've got the North Node here, and that is in Taurus. And then we have the South Node over here, and that is in Scorpio. Okay. And Saturn is making a square to those. Okay, so this is where the sun is, and this is where the moon is. And they're obviously on a full moon, they're in opposition. Now let's look at a full moon just really quickly. The sun is the light, the consciousness, okay? This point in the center of the sun, the dot, the symbol of the sun, right, is our perspective or point of the all, which is the circle, consciousness. So that's our personalized perspective, personality, our identity, right? So just like the sun is the light of the day, you can't see anything without light, right? If it's dark, you can't see it. So the sun is the light, shining the light, and the moon is receptive. This is masculine, this is feminine. The moon is receptive, it receives. It has no light of its own, right? It can only reflect the light of this sun. And when it does, the moon represents the receptive part of self, which rules over our habits and our unconscious or subconscious patterns and behaviors. So when the sun is opposing, or the moon is opposing the sun, the moon is receiving all of the light of the sun. So then a lot of the subconscious can come into consciousness because it's fully lit up now. So what happens on a new moon, there's a conjunction of the sun and moon together. Okay, so that's the seed point. So not much happens on a new moon. Very rarely things manifest into reality on the new moon. However, when we get to a full moon, we're having the release of this energy. right? Now, because we have the lunar nodes here, right? We have the nodes of the moon here as well. We're getting an eclipse. And we just had a solar eclipse 2 weeks ago. Now we're getting the lunar eclipse, right? And the eclipses are these karmic sort of endings and beginnings, undoings, karma and dharma, the past, the future, what we're letting go of and the destiny we're moving towards. Okay, so they happen roughly every 6 months. We usually get 2 eclipses, sometimes more, but usually 2 eclipses every 6 months. Like I said before, the last time we had a lunar eclipse in Scorpio was 2003, 2004. We had one in 2003 and we had one in 2004. So it's not common. That's 18, almost 19 years ago since this phenomenon has happened. However, if we looked at what else was going in the sky then to what's going in the sky now, obviously it gives this a much, much different flavor. So let's start backwards and move from the furthest out over here. We've got Pluto retrograding in the sign of Capricorn, okay? And Pluto is making a trine, which is an aspect, right? It's an applying trine. The sun is applying to a trine here, triangle, trine, to the sun, and a sextile down here to the moon. So we have this little symbol here like this. And Pluto, right, is the deep unconscious, the lord of the underworld. Why would it be underworld? Because it's buried deep within our unconscious. And it deals not only with our unconscious soul desires, our soul memories, but also when we go through a heavy emotional experience, such as an emotional trauma, abuse, something like that, and it sort of makes an imprint on us. So just how well we're able to process that just depends on how much sort of emotional content that is stored in our Pluto area. Now, Pluto retrograde, right? There's an opportunity for a lot of that to come to the surface, which is the unconscious, right? In the tarot, it's the trumpet card, right? And it's the trumpet from above blowing its horn and raising the dead. So you could look at Pluto in the sky at the moment as sort of raising the dead, which is the buried parts of self. And it's the buried parts of self that aren't aligned to our true self, right? That actually prevent true self-expression. That's the aspect of this sort of unconscious baggage that we, as a soul, collect along our journeys of lifetimes and lifetimes. Pluto is the co-ruler of Scorpio, right? So Pluto retrograde ruling the South Node and having rulership over the South Node, a lot of what's coming up in it from our unconscious is directly linked to Scorpio, right? Emotional, intense emotional Scorpio experiences from the South Node, the past. So, hurt, pain, abuses, trauma that we have suffered this life or even previous lifetimes that have left an imprint on our soul at a deep level. This eclipse is really bringing a lot of that to the surface. And because there's an aspect, and it's ruling the South Node, but it's trining the North Node, it's almost saying to us that in order to move towards our destiny and a transformation of our fixed values and to learn how to embody this Leo energy down here that's missing, right? Which is the heart down here, right? Look at Leo in the heart there. In order to move into this place here, and don't forget that Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is another aspect of heart. It's what you love, right? We almost have to confront those things that hold us back, that tie us to the past, especially those heavy emotional experiences that we can't, for whatever reason, let go. So it's not all bad. In fact, it's all good. But it is a necessary thing that's happening, that the clock in the sky is telling us that it's time. And it's time to let go. It's time to heal. It's time to heal so we can move towards a redefinition, a revolution of our values and our fixed values, right? You'll notice that over the last 2 years in particular, what has changed a lot is the material motivations, right? For people. As you go through the awakening process, most of you watching this are going through or have been through or going, continuously through this process of awakening, one of the things that happens is you're less motivated by material desires, okay? And that can be a lot of this Scorpio energy too, is letting go of our material desires and transforming our material desires. And then don't forget over here, we also have the planet Uranus in Taurus, where it's been for a while and it will be for some time. It's halfway through. It's been there for about 3.5 years. It spends about 7 years in each sign. Uranus wants freedom. Uranus wants individuation, liberty, right? Uranus wants change. Uranus says to Saturn, stagnation is annihilation. If we don't change Uranus, Saturn, Lord of Time, right? Carries the scythe or the sickle. It's like death, right? Of course, death. Without change, there's death. So it's really this Pluto energy tying into this. If we're starting from there, it's time for change. And like I said at the beginning, some very fixed situations that people are in denial of the self, in denial of their truth, in denial of their soul's deepest yearning for expression of selfhood, right? Which is what the sun is the point that the soul gives this sun, your individuality, right? Your uniqueness, it gives you that to express its unique soul's desire. So if in your life at the moment, in a relationship, in a family situation, in a work environment, in a home location, anywhere in your life you feel stuck and you can't really be yourself, right? For whatever reason, the person you're with doesn't like that, or you're worried that if you are, that something's going to happen, or if you're really truthful, maybe you put a lot of effort and energy into a career and ambitious and goals, and you've got to where you thought was amazing, and all of a sudden you're finding through this transformation of these values where you sort of go, this isn't what's motivating me more, but you're afraid to actually own that, because what it might mean is that you have to walk away from all the effort and time and energy you put into something, and you're just not interested anymore, but you don't want to do that. So you feel what? You feel so rigid and stuck, and I don't know what to do or where to turn or how to. Well, here comes the eclipse. The first step is the awareness that, am I in alignment to my truth here? Because when you get in deep alignment to that deep, authentic desire for self-expression, that's what's best for you. That's what's best for those people closest to you. That's what's best for this world. Is what's best for you on that level is what's best for this world. Except we deny that because we have trauma, because we are, unaware, because we are on this journey, and because we're not at that stage of self-actualization. So that's the Pluto story. Okay. This Pluto story with it retrograding, it's like you can't keep a lid on this stuff. If you have the deep unconscious urge to change, but you're afraid of what that change, owning that might mean for your reality, and you decide to push that and deny it or avoid it or escape from it, you'll find that a particular crisis situation may manifest to create the circumstances or the change in circumstances that allows that truth to come through. What type of crisis? It may be a health crisis. Right? It may be a death. It may be a scandal within an affair, or a secret being revealed within a relationship. It may be a complete, sudden and unexpected redundancy or sacking, or, it could be so many things, but the theme will be a crisis. And the reason for the crisis is because you've denied it. You've said, no, the little I, the little self, the ego self is saying, no, I know better. And the soul's going, oh yeah, all right, let's fucking boom. See what you think of this, and kaboom. It just comes out anyway. And it comes out in a very catastrophic way, because it's the smallest planet, but plutonium is the ingredient in what, right? Nuclear energy, right? It's a key ingredient. So it's only the smallest little thing, but kaboom, off it goes. And it's just this releasing of the potential or the energy that's being stored. Because the South Node is in Scorpio and Pluto's ruling the South Node, and this is on a full moon eclipse, right? The intensity of that release is extreme. We're dealing with Pluto, with Pluto and with Scorpio. Scorpio is a fixed water sign, emotional intensity, and Pluto is extremes. So emotional, intense, extreme energy that's requiring release. So people are, oh, what do? Well, again, own your truth. You have the power, Pluto, or you become disempowered. Your truth can set you free or it can destroy you. And by destroying you, it will destroy the little you, the little I, because it'll just collapse that you, because it's not the real you. That's the one you're pretending to be, to please, to play these patterns, to keep up the appearances, to do whatever. The real you, the deep down unconscious soul's yearning you, that's the real you, and it'll find a way. Now, Pluto's in Capricorn. The sign opposite Capricorn, right down here, before we get to Leo, is Cancer. And Cancer is ruled by the moon, right? Cancer here is the sign ruled by the moon, and Cancer is the mother. So I would predict that for a lot of people, the stuff that's coming up here with this Scorpio South Node moon is mother wounds, deep mother wounds. In fact, this is a collective healing of the mother wound, the Mother Earth. So, you know, how do you know you have a mother wound? Because you have a dependency on something outside of yourself for your emotional well-being, right? To feel good, you need something outside of yourself. So there is somehow connected to that a deep mother wound. It may be a specific mother wound. You actually might have a wound where you might not have a good relationship with your mother, right? Or you, as a mother, you might not have a good relationship with your child. So all of this energy is, you know, Cancer, which is the polarity point to Pluto, Cancer. And Pluto's at 28 degrees of Capricorn. So we're in the final stages of Pluto and Capricorn, right? Which says, take responsibility, Capricorn. Take responsibility for your emotional needs, Cancer, right? And we're in the final stages. In fact, next year, Pluto will move into Aquarius and then dance for the next 2 years across that axis of Capricorn, Aquarius, as then 2025, it finally makes its way into Aquarius. And we say goodbye to Pluto and Capricorn for 240 odd years. So really in this next little phase of life triggered by this eclipse between now and 2025, it's Capricorn, take personal responsibility, Capricorn. Step up to do what? For your emotional needs. You cannot place your emotional needs into the hands of any one thing or one person outside of self, right? Otherwise, you stay the child, immature in your soul's development, stuck in this pattern of constantly needy. I need you to like, I need this, I need needy, right? So you have to move beyond that state of conscious awareness to mature, to become more Capricornian, which is the rule of Saturn, which is Kronos, to wear your crown. Some deep shit going on. I've only got Pluto. We've got to go through Neptune next. Let's go to Neptune now. So Neptune is over this side, right? And Pluto, transformation through crisis or self-transformation. Transformation through crisis, when you deny, avoid, or repress the truth. The crisis manifests, it's going to force it out anyway. If you're in a relationship at the moment and deep down you don't want to be because you're not in love with the person anymore, but you're afraid because of time or people or family or kids or all of those things, but the deepest truth is you just don't want to be there anymore. You don't love him. The truth of that is going to find the light of day at some point, and it's going to cause the collapse of that relationship. That's the truth. Now, you have a choice. Self-transformation, you honor it and you express it into your reality in a compassionate way. but in alignment to your deep soul's desire for truth. Or you repress, deny, and avoid it, and it comes out anyway in some type of catastrophe or crisis that forces it out because it's the truth. So transformation through crisis or transformation through self-transformation, empowerment. You either get disempowered by your truth or it empowers you. The choice is always yours. It's not easy, but it's the right thing to do. And here's Saturn. And Saturn is not easy. It's challenging, it's hard, it's restrictive, it's limiting, it's like a burden, but it's the right thing to do. And what does it do? It creates maturity and wisdom. When you do the right thing, even though it's hard, it's the right thing, right? Everything works out for your highest good in divine timing because it's the right thing. Saturn rules this. Now, Neptune, transcendence. Saturn deals in limiting realities, right? Here it is, it's a fixed reality. Neptune is this desire to transcend. So it moves us into the spiritual, off the material, right? To transcend that. It's in Pisces, the co-ruler of Pisces, right? 10. Maybe because I've had the lid off too long. It's in Pisces, 24 degrees, right? The moon, the full moon is at 25 degrees here. Water equals boom, trine. Neptune allows us to transcend the trauma, the hurt, the pain, the past, right? To transcend it. But how do you transcend something? By letting it go, right? It's like hot air balloon, right? You imagine a hot air balloon tied up to the ground, filled with hot air, ready to go, lift off. You fucking beauty. And as you go higher and higher and higher, so too does your perspective shift. And all of a sudden you can see more and more and more. And all of a sudden, all those little tiny things below you get so small that you put it into perspective on this larger scale and you're like, what was I so worried about? Well, Neptune is that hot air. It's taking you higher. Can you take me higher? I put that song on one of my stories. Right? How? Fucking untie. You can't stay stuck to the ground tied up and ascend. You've got to untie. You've got to let go. Right? You got to let go. Transcend the past by letting it go. Often people stay stuck in the trauma of the past because they're afraid or they're avoiding of feeling the feeling of what it is they're trying to avoid. I don't want to feel worthless. So I'm willing to stay in an unhealthy relationship because it's a relationship. And if I had no relationship, that mean that I'm worthy of love. So I'll stay in the shit relationship because I don't want to feel unworthiness. So that avoiding of a feeling holds you back to the past. It keeps you playing that same here. It's the wheel, right? It's a wheel. You're stuck on the wheel. You want to let go of the wheel? You've got to transcend it. But in this case, it's done by letting go, right? And just as you let go of it, yes, you'll have emotional energy. We're going to have a lot of emotional energy come up. Grief, loss, sadness, absolute grief. We're going to experience a lot of that in this physical realm, but we need to process and move through it so we can transcend it. You aren't your past. But if you can't let go of what happened, you'll continue to manifest the hurt of it into your life, into the future. And I know this might be big and hard for some people because they've been through some extreme Pluto, intense Scorpio, emotional water difficulties, extreme, unimaginable. But the capacity for compassion and empathy, selflessness and humanity is limitless. Neptune, limitless. Saturn limiting. Neptune limitless, boundaryless. Oneness. Our capacity for that has no limits. But what limits us is our inability to release or let go. So this eclipse is about coming to terms with that, moving through it. Yes, you will be sad and upset and hurt and all, but emotions can't kill you if you let them flow. Sadness can't hurt you unless you stop it, unless you prevent it, unless you hold on to it, unless you embody it, unless you repress it, because it's extreme, intense emotional energy. And if you don't release it, what do you think happens to it? Where do you think it goes? It doesn't disappear. You can't push it into your Pluto subconscious, unconscious, and expect it to be gone. Then you walk around with a ticking time bomb and little things will trigger you because they're hitting that. It's like, I've got to get this going. And eventually, if you don't release this, right, this emotional intensity, emotion, energy in motion, release, move it, flow it, let it go. If you don't, you hold, repress, avoid, deny. And guess what happens? You make yourself ill. Your body becomes dis-ease. Instead of at ease, you become dis-eased, right? And where does that happen? Well, Scorpio is the regeneration area, your ability to reproduce, issues with your cycle, difficulty with your power center, right? And then obviously specific to your own natal chart is to where this unexpressed emotional intense energy is going to manifest physically for you and create dis-ease. It's pretty simple. Modern medicine won't go near the metaphysics at the moment. But as we move fully into the Aquarian age, we must incorporate as a holistic approach to health, metaphysical spiritualities, aspects of living and life and wellness into medicine, right? Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn, all these toxic patriarchal systems of health, finance, government, they're all collapsing. They're all collapsing right in front of our eyes. Why? Because they're not a holistic approach. This is a whole circle. They're not a whole circle. They're an aspect of it. They're incomplete. They're incomplete. They're missing pieces and parts. But it's up to us, Aquarian age. It's up to each of us, not up to a patriarchal system or some authority or a government to solve these problems. It's up to us to do it. Digression. It's like digression. But what's going on here is Mars, the fiery red planet of passion and anger and aggression and action. Mars, okay, the masculine will. He's also up here conjunct Neptune, enshrining the South Node and the lunar eclipse and ruling the South Node lunar eclipse. Action, Mars, take the action, inspired action, right? Inspired action to let go, to process that. Because Mars is in here with Pisces in Neptune ruling the South Node on this eclipse, volatility, emotional volatility without the right processing will erupt into reactiveness. So you'll find people being short, triggered, reactive, angry, lots of crazy shit going on in the world, shootings and stabbings and all sorts of lunatic problems and issues going on because inability of people to transcend and take inspired action, they're taking hurt action. So Mars now is saying inspired, transcend, let go. Otherwise, it's angry Mars, very angry and emotionally very unstable, right? I wouldn't like to be in big sort of volatile, crowded areas. Stay away from conflict at the moment with others, right? The only conflict, if you're experiencing that in your life, is an internal conflict playing out in your reality because it's showing you because you are not integrating your conflict and processing the imbalance. Your reality is going to reflect it for you to say, fuck, you've got to do something about this. But what is the Piscean victim do? Stuck in the past? Blames the people outside of itself. Oh, he did, she did, they said, I need it. All right. And how much of that is going on in the world at the moment? Especially with cancel culture and this bullshit going on. What do they want to do? It's not their problem. No one wants to take Capricorn responsibility of their shit, right? No one wants to take responsibility of their wounds, their past, their trauma. They don't want to push it out there and make it someone else's fault. And then you stay the victim, Pisces, right? Shadow Pisces, not the compassionate, selfless, empathetic Pisces, the sensitive, the lovely, the beautiful, the romantic Pisces. No, the hateful, angry, resentful victim Pisces, where everything else in the world is a problem. And then with Mars conjunct that, you're pissed. You're pissed at everything outside of you. You may have this character popping up in your life at the moment, blaming you. And I tell people, when someone is reactive towards you, they're pushing their unintegrated shadow, their denial of self onto you, and they're making you the problem. It's called gaslighting, right? They make out you've got the problem, right? What you've got to look at it is that's their unintegrated shadow. That's their darkness that they don't want to accept. They don't want to integrate. They don't want to resolve personally. So you cop it. But you have a choice. You have three choices. You imagine that reactiveness towards you, or that projection, or that, whatever that hurt is coming to you by one of these sort of angry, pissed off victims that's blaming everything but themselves. You imagine it's a shit-covered baseball being thrown at your head. You have three choices. You stand there, number one, and let it hit you, and it hurts, and you're covered in shit. So you let it hurt you. You let it hit you. The second option is you catch that fucking baseball and you become it, and you shit on it and you throw it back, and you're in a shit fight, and you're just the angry Mars now, emotionally volatile, unstable, victim blame game. He did this, but he said that, but he did that, and you're in a shit fight. Third option, here comes that fucking shitty baseball straight at you, and you just, whoa, brother, whoa, sister, okay, yeah, you do Mike Tyson on that. You duck weave, get out of the way, because it's not yours. Can't hurt you, can't hit you. Can't hit you, can't hurt you. So there's a lot of that going on at the moment. Let's build the picture. We've spoken about Uranus. It's conjunct the North Node in Taurus. It was stimulated by the past. 2 weeks ago, we had a solar eclipse with the sun and moon coming together, right? So we could expect with a lot of this energy is sudden and unexpected transitions, changes, volatility, things happening like, whoa, shocking changes. So the more that this is playing out in your life and you're pushing and repressing and not, right, the more likelihood you're going to feel the Uranian energy of sudden change. Whoa, everything blows up, and the next thing is like, wow, where'd that come from? Now, the unaware is like, oh my God, and they're up in here, Mars town, with Pisces and Neptune, and they're like, oh, they're blaming everything outside of them. Hey, they did that, and they did. Come over here in Uranus, it's like, mate, change had to happen here. You're too fixed. You're not in your heart. You're complaining about all your dependencies. You're stuck in the past. Uranus says, Uranus doesn't care about your feelings, right? It just makes a change. There's a loggerhead. Things aren't changing. Uranus comes along. Boom. Now, there you go. Here's the change. So that's the Uranus sort of energy. But it's revelation, it's rebellion, it's revolution, right? It's freedom, right? If you're in a situation in your life at the moment where you feel stuck, I bet you the number one desire you have is for freedom. I just want to feel free. I can't be free with this person, this job, this place, this family member, whatever it is. I just want to be free, right? Be careful what you wish for. Uranus on the North Node. Freedom may come unexpectedly. How do we cope with this sort of sudden and unexpected change? We remain open and flexible, right? We bend, right? We bend, we sway. It's like the tree when the wind blows. If it's rigid and it can't move, the wind topples it over. But if it bends and flows with it, it can, you've seen palm trees in hurricanes? And when the hurricane's done, they're like this and they got no leaves. Their hair blew off. Like, they're like, but they're alive. They survive. Why? Because they remain flexible. So flexibility at the moment to change, and change is sudden and unexpected. You know, plan for the best, right? Plan for the best, hope for the best, but prepare for anything, not the worst, anything. In fact, if something unexpected occurs, if you resist it, oh, it's because you think you can control nature. You can't control nature, right? You have to learn to adapt to it. The Sabian symbol for this Scorpio full moon lunar eclipse is a native Indian tribe setting up camp after relocating. And the theme for that is you can't tame, control, fight nature. You have to learn to accept it, because forever it will overcome you. And when we learn to accept it and to adapt to its changing conditions, we can learn to get in flow with it. And then we can meet life much more at peace. But when we're rigid and we need control and it has to go this way, and I did all this planning and I put all this effort and I've been in this marriage for 20 years, I want, need, want. You're stuck. Kaboom, up comes the Pluto volcano, off goes the Uranus detonation. And you're either stuck up here in wah Pisces land with Mars and Neptune going, or you go, poof, I can let that go. And up I go in my big hot air balloon and I transcend. And up here, phew, what was I so worried about? Look how tiny and insignificant that is from this height, from this point of view, from the ascended transcendence. That's why it's mystical, because you let down the physical go. Right? The physical is the reality, which moves us to this guy. I love Saturn. I'm a Sun conjunct Saturn person. So in my natal chart, I have the Sun in Virgo conjunct Saturn, right on top. So I know a thing about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to this guy, Saturn. Saturn, he rules the reality. He rules the physical life, right? He's the keeper of time, the chronos, the karma, the coming around, the grim reaper, right? The Lord of death comes, and the reaping of what you sow. And with Saturn now exactly square the eclipse, right? So like I showed you at the beginning, there's a tension between the sun and moon, right? And here is this pull on the tension is Saturn going, how did we get here? People, how did we get here? And Saturn saying, you fucking did it to yourself. Yeah, what? Saturn says, your actions, your behavior, your choices led you here. Take responsibility for it. Accept it. That's the reality. Saturn. Saturn's world. In this physical, right? He's the boss. In the physical, anything physical, a relationship is a Saturnian reality. It's the reality. I am married here. I am in this job. I have this contract, this obligation, this responsibility. I have this physical body, this Saturn. It's all Saturn's world in the physical. So right now, whatever's going on, accept that your actions and behavior and choices, whether conscious or not, led you to that point. There's a big thing in the woo-woo new age spiritual community of like, you're exactly where you need to be. Like, I fucking don't like that. You know, like you're exactly, but in reality, Saturn right now is like, you're where you fucking got yourself here. You got yourself here. Whether you accept it, whether you were unconscious of it, whether you did it against your will, you still did it. You still got here, right? It's Saturn saying, now on square to this node of this is what it looks like. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? First is just accept it. Accept. Take responsibility and ownership for everything. Pull back on the blame and the projection of someone else did this, it's their fault. right? Take responsibility. This is a huge karmic undoing or reckoning, or as one of my students said, unfucking. It's not the great reset, it's the deep reset. Pluto retrograde ruling the south lunar node in Scorpio on an eclipse, lunar eclipse. It's the deep reset. It ain't a great reset. It's a fucking deep reset. And we better bloody make it. We better take ownership of it and go through that reset, or fucking Saturn's going to rule the reality, and it's doom, it's death, it's the end. Karma. Karma isn't, I haven't done something bad and now I've got to pay the consequences. That's justice, divine justice. And that's coming too. But karma is cause and effect. Do something there, and here is the result of that. Saturn rules time. There could be things that were done 19 years ago that led you here. There could be things done in Saturn's cycle 15 years ago, 30 years ago, 7 years ago, last week. But the fact of the matter is you reap what you sow. And because Saturn is patient, and because he rules time and the reality of this physical world, right? He just sits there calmly and like, here, this is where we're at. If you want to rule your reality, you must wear your crown. And wearing your crown is taking responsibility for your situation, for your reality, for where you're at. Take responsibility, right? You're not responsible for the things that other people have done for you in the past that have caused the hurt, right? But they will have justice based on those actions and that karma, cause and effect. You have to let go and have faith that that's not up to you. You're not responsible for what they did to you, but you are responsible for healing it, right? You are responsible for healing it, for letting it go. Do you have love in your heart? Can you have forgiveness? Can you come into here? This Leo now is like the sun rules Leo, and on the north node, like you've got to be in your heart, right? If we take this almighty, I'm God type, perspective on life, and I can't be me because I'm holier than thou, and everyone else blame has the problem, right? Lost my train of thought. Ooh, just like a fart in the wind. Where was I going with that one? Ooh, let me take a pause. Good time at home if you want to just check your phone and see what time it is. It's a long video, I know, this one. I'll come back to that if that was important. If you have this godlike complex, like you haven't got the problem, everyone else has got the problem, then you don't need to do anything. You don't need to forgive. You don't need to let go, right? But that's in fact exactly what you need to do. You need to be able to get to a point where you forgive people. Because why? Because we're on the spiral of life, right? Let's say this is eternity. You're a little blip here, like a little fart along that little endless stream of life, consciousness, endless, eternal. And here you are at a very unevolved state of consciousness, right? That's why you keep coming back into the being reborn into this suffering, right? This cycle of birth, death, rebirth process is because you're unevolved. And at that state, you're going to play God and like, you haven't got a problem? I'm never letting that go. Right? No, what you're saying in that state is they shouldn't have made a mistake. They shouldn't be here. You've looked at someone else and they've made difficult decisions, or they've caused harm, or they've done all sorts of shit things, and it's bad. And I get it. But that's where they're at. And when you transcend your hurt and pain, you can look at it and go, oh, that's just where they're at, right? We need something from someone else. We stay like a child. We need them to, I need this, I need that. Well, guess what? People can't give you what they don't have. And if you need love, affection, all those things from something or someone else from you, you become dependent on them. But just know that you might be needing something from someone that's at a point on their cycle of eternity that they aren't yet able to deliver because they don't even have it themselves. How can you give something you don't have? You can't. You can't. That's not true giving. That's actually, I'm doing this to get what I don't have, right? So transcend the God status, right? Justice for negative, harmful behavior is not up to us. Let's have faith in the cosmic balancing, right? Divine balancing that naturally happens here. Jupiter has just moved into, where are we? Back here. Jupiter has just moved into Aries. There's only one you. There is only one you in this world. There's only one you. How much responsibility do you have for that one you? That's all that matters, is that one you. Your happiness is your responsibility. Your love, all of that, it's you. You have to be able to love yourself. Ignite that divine spark. You want to set off an empowered journey, right? Jupiter in Aries, the beginning of something new, right? Where you get to express your full self. Well, you have to take ownership. Journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Let's use another analogy right now with Jupiter moved into Aries. So there is this big desire to want to assert yourself or express yourself, or to take a step. You want new. So here you are, you've packed your ship, you've got your crew, you've got your supplies, you're all decked up, ready for this voyage across this beautiful flat plain that we call Earth. Where are you going? You don't know, but you know that you'll know when you find it, right? You're off on a destiny, a journey, you're ready to go. And you're standing on your ship with your crew and everything, and you're like, yes. And night falls. And day comes up, and you're still looking at the same place, and nothing's changed. And then, yes, here we go again. And then night falls, and the next day comes, and you're in the same place again. And you're like, why aren't I going? Why can't I? And you turn around and look back, and your ship is docked up and tied up at the port still. No matter how much sailing you're doing, if you're tied up at the port, right? If you're hanging on to the past, you ain't going anywhere. So although Jupiter in Aries is saying, let's go, take a step, let's leap. You really want to do that with gusto? The expression of the divine spark within you is desiring to express. You must let go. You must untie. Otherwise, you don't go anywhere. And that frustration, right, with Mars ruling Aries, that frustration, that overwhelm, emotional overwhelm, and you're going to look for why you're stuck instead of looking at the very thing that's holding you back. It's you. It's always you. Saturn, it's always you. Where's Venus? Venus is also in Aries. So we're getting a little bit busy over this corner here, but let's put Venus. Where do we put? Actually, you know what we'll do? We'll just make some room for Venus because she's important. Because Venus rules the way at the moment. The North Node is in Taurus. That's Venus's sign. And Venus is in Aries, right? With the key. The key. The key to what? The key to all this. That's why Chiron is the key. And Venus, the heart, ruling our values, is lined up on top of the key. The wound. The wound. Why is the wound the key? Because here's the thing. The wound is the very richness. It's the initiation into selfhood. Because what you do is you look at it as in not something that happened to you that you suffered because of, or you're not worthy as a result, but something that was testing you, right? that was initiating you into this selfhood of love for self. You got wounded when you looked for that outside of you somewhere. You were hurt. And that hurt was to teach you to stop fucking looking for love outside yourself. It's always within you because you are it. You are love. The essence of light is love, the vibrational frequency of enlightenment, bliss, joy, love. It's you. And you got hurt every time you looked outside yourself. And the wise teacher was saying, pain is a really good teacher. It can unlock a lot. And a lot of the unlocking at the moment, with Venus ruling the North Node, the destiny, right, is to unlock the pain and see it as a teacher. It was teaching me. I was looking for it outside of me. It's within me. I opened my heart with the key. Venus, Leo. There it is. It's always been there. It's always within you. Some big energies. I think that's it. Oh, one more little guy, the trickster. Mercury, the little tricksters, retrograding in Gemini, right? This battle can't be fought in the mind. It's in the body. It's in the heart. It's in the healing. It's in the feeling. It's not in the thinking. In fact, the more you try and think your way out of this at the moment, the more crazy you're going to go. The more uncertainty you're going to find, because it's not in the mind. It's not in the mind. It's everywhere but. It's in the heart, it's in the feelings, it's in the tenderness, it's in the love, it's in the body, it's in the memories. It's all those places. The mind's a beautiful master or a wicked trickster, you know? So at the moment, if you're looking and searching for what's the right thing to do or to say and you just have to drop down and let go of this noise and come down here and realize there it is. And all your job is to do is to trust that what is here, the center of your being, that heart space, what is there, no matter what it is, what is there is what's best for you. And it's what's best for those around you. Because the best you comes from this place here. Right? It doesn't come up here. This place tricks on us. The best you comes from here. You just have to trust that when you lead from there, what's meant for you is meant for you. That you're going to be in the right place at the right time. That exactly where you're at is where you're meant to be. And isn't life wonderful? We can look at the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees, and we can love every little bit of it, and every moment we can express it. We can find that joy. And that's what this game is about. We live in Earth realm. Right? This plane of inertia, this physical plane, this Earth. Why does it do that? Let's go with black because that's another Earth, right? Is what? H E R A R T. We just got to move. Yeah. We've got to find in Earth, we've got to find the heart. That sets you free. That's why we come here, to live from here. Imagine a world where everyone lived from here. The peace that you want in this world isn't found by electing a new moron to rule or govern or create more. Make the bad people stop doing that. I want to be able to do this, and men should be able to get pregnant. Make all the wonderful, I need the world like that so I can be at peace. That's not how we create heaven on earth. How we create that peace, that beauty, is we open our fucking heart in here and we live from that space and then let go of all the rest. Imagine a world where we're in our heart. How fucking beautiful that would be. That's not a utopian dream. That's the fucking purpose of reality. of physical life. It's the purpose. It's not unattainable. It's the thing, the only thing that's right there in every precious moment that we get to breathe this beautiful God-given air is an opportunity to be right here. Time has come. The time, Saturn, has come. Black, black, Saturn, sun, black, Saturn. The time has come. What time is it for you? What do you need to do to take responsibility so you can step down into your heart? What do you need to let go of? What's coming to the end of its cycle? How did you get here? It's time. Reach out if you want a personal reading. If you're struggling and you need some helpful guidance or support to make these transitions or to get into and to make conscious those things that you feel and what's right and best for you, then tap into the beautiful divineness that we have, which is the great cosmic wheel of destiny. To know thyself. All we need to do is stop and look up. As above, so below, as within. Excuse me, so without. Breakfast coming up. It's time. Peace out. Enjoy the video.